Part 1. Preface and Chapter 1 of Canada's 100 Days with the Canadian Corps from Amiens to Mons, August 8 to November 11, 1918. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by David Lawrence. Canada's 100 Days by John Livesay. Part 1. Preface and Chapter 1. Preface. This book has been written to give the Canadian people a clear, fuller concept of the wonderful work of the Canadian Corps during the 100 days. To that consideration every other has been subordinated. By identifying, so far as possible, the actual battle positions of individual battalions, it is hoped to stimulate local pride and interest in their respective territorial or recruiting areas. Difficulties were here encountered, both through absence of detailed official narratives and limitations of space. But if full justice had not been done each fighting unit, it is not from lack of application and goodwill. With this prime consideration always in mind, it has been sought to make the book intelligible to the general reader, as well as to the military student, and pains therefore have been taken to explain at length the former military technicalities and terminology that come within the common knowledge of the latter. Whenever practicable, the original and official sources drawn upon for description of operations have been quoted. Such may at times be a little tedious, but is preferable to loose paraphrasing, which, while denying the reader an inspection of the documentary evidence, makes heavy drafts upon his credulity. Thus the official report of the Corps Commander covering these operations have been reproduced practically in full, paralleling in its proper place the general narrative. This might be expected to make for confusion and overlapping, but in practice it has not altogether worked out that way, for whereas the official report deals mainly with technical aspects, the book itself seeks to clothe these with the pulsating life and color of the battlefield. The alternatives must have been either to have buried the official report in a lengthy appendix, or to have omitted it altogether. It is felt the right course has been followed because whatever the book may suffer from these occasional breaks in the story, this loss is overwhelmingly counterbalanced by placing before the reader in an accessible form this extremely valuable and compellingly interesting report, carrying with it the authority of an authenticated historic document. Among official or semi-official narratives, of which free use has been made, are those of the 1st Canadian Division, the 4th Canadian Division, the 4th Canadian Infantry Brigade, as well as several battalion narratives. Valuable material has been drawn from the narrative of the First Army, published by the London Times, entitled The Final Blow of the First Army in 1918. The author is greatly indebted to a number of friends of all ranks in the Canadian Corps for information and suggestions. Special acknowledgment must be made to the very efficient work of Lieutenant J.I.P. Neal, Canadian Corps Survey Section, who throughout these operations superintended the Corps Map Section, and has now prepared the accompanying maps and plans. End of preface. Chapter 1. The Situation on the Western Front. On July 18, 1918, Marshal Foch, supported by the new American levies, struck his hammer blow on the Marne. We shall hear a good deal in history of Chateau Thierry and the great victory, but it remains that, at the end of July, the West Front, the traditional West Front of Flanders, Picardy, and the Somme was intact, unpierced, to all seeming an impregnable wall built by German blood and iron. But it was not the line of 1917. The spring offensive had cramped its defenders into a narrower, a more perilous ring. In the north the enemy bivouacked on the field of Passchendaele, and from Mount Kemmel cast his shadow over the Channel ports. To the south he was knocking on the gate of Amiens, and thrusting through Montdidier at Paris. Only in the centre, at Souchez, on Vimy Ridge, and before Arras, where through all those fateful days of March and April the Canadian Corps had kept watch and guard,
Sample complete. Ready to continue?